Hi, how are you doing? This is Professor Rana, and I shall be talking to you on a very important subject, and that deals with the laboratory animals in biology and medicine. I suppose that you all are PhD students or MPhil students, and you will be going through theory courses, and then you will be given a project, and that project may involve the use of animals. That project may involve some experimental work which you will continue or conduct on experiment animals. So, for a PhD student or a research student, it is very essential to understand what these laboratory animals are, how they are maintained, how they are taken care of. And if your animals are not properly maintained, take it granted that you will be getting very bad results. As a student, your supervisor or you yourself will select some project. That project will be having some hypothesis, and that hypothesis will be tested through the use of animal models. What these animal models can be, how to select a suitable animal model, this is very important. If you have an hypothesis, you have a suitable laboratory model for that, and you have a good laboratory practice, then you are going to get very good results that can be relied upon, that can be validated further by other laboratories. So, for that, I think the talk that I am going to present before you will be very useful. Try to understand like this, that almost all biotechnological experiments, they involve a microorganism, and that microorganism is Escherichia coli. Right? Escherichia coli is being used by many pharmaceutical industries to produce suitable drugs after cloning the gene. So, how important that a small animal is. And if you have a project dealing with similar approaches, you need to know what E. coli is, from where we can get the real strain of E. coli, how this E. coli can be maintained under laboratory conditions. And for that, you need a training in cell culture. You need a trained staff who is specialized in cell culture techniques. It's a very special one. Without that technique, you cannot culture E. coli and you cannot perform experiments. If you proceed further, you find that many of the studies in genetics, they depend on Drosophila. Drosophila melanogaster, you study that in almost all genetics books. Without Drosophila, you cannot imagine to do some genetical experiments. So, how important these models are. Similarly, you have other models you have nematode. We call it as Caenorhabditis elegans. Caenorhabditis elegans has helped the people of different branches of science, especially the biological sciences. Caenorhabditis is very easy to culture under laboratory conditions. Caenorhabditis is being used in many toxicological or biochemical or molecular biological or cell biological experiments to prove an hypothesis. So, how important it is that you should know what is the biology of Caenorhabditis elegans and how it can be cultured under laboratory conditions, and then only you can plan the experiment. Similarly, you have some other animals, and you use them accordingly. Say, for example, you are doing some regenerational experiments where you are interested in regeneration biology, and for that you use a freshwater planarian. You use a freshwater planarian. Similarly, you use a salamander, a newt. Only when you cut the limb of the newt, a blastema is formed, and that blastema keeps on dividing and developing further, and you use those cells in regeneration studies. So you need a salamander. Salamander is a very good experimental animal. Xenopus laevis is a very good experimental animal. Similarly, you use in embryological studies sea urchin eggs. The eggs of sea urchin are very easy to maintain, especially in those laboratories which are located near the seashores. They can collect the sea urchin eggs, they can maintain these sea urchin eggs under laboratory conditions, and they can study them. Similarly, if you are interested in developmental biology, you use the Amphioxus. You study the life cycle of Amphioxus, you study blastula, gastrula, how the blastula is changing into gastrula. You take the help of Amphioxus. So, Amphioxus becomes a very important experimental model for these studies. You should know how the Amphioxus can be cultured, how Amphioxus can be maintained under laboratory conditions. Similarly, you have a crustacean, Daphnia. You see, there are certain animals which are conventionally used in biological or biomedical studies, and there are certain animals which are non-conventional. What do I mean here by non-conventional? That they are not in convention. Daphnia is not in convention, but Daphnia is being used in many physiological and biochemical experiments. Daphnia is very easy to culture. Cyclops is very easy to culture. Even certain laboratories are using paramecium. Certain species, certain laboratories are using cancerous cells. The breast cancer cells can be used. You don't require animal, you just require a cell. And the cell can be obtained from a commercial supplier. And the cell can be maintained under laboratory conditions, provided you know the cell culture techniques, provided you know the media on which they can be grown, provided you know the pH on which they can be grown, provided you know the temperature and carbon dioxide concentration available to them. These are some of the precautions that you are going to take, and when you take these precautions, you can grow them. What are these? HeLa cells. They are being extensively used in cancer studies. What are these HeLa cells? HeLa cells are those cells which have been taken from a lady whose name was HeLa in short. And these HeLa cells are still available for scientists who are interested in studying the biology of cancer. So, my dear friends, it depends on your approach. What type of approach you have, what type of objective you have, what type of hypothesis you want to test, and what type of experimental model you will select. You can select a cell line, you can select a cell line of cancerous cells, whether these are breast cancer cells, or these are vaginal cells, these are vaginal epithelial cells, or other cell types. You can get, in spite of killing a rat, you can get the rat liver cells to work upon. In spite of killing the rat, you can get kidney cells to work upon. Mesangial cells of kidney are available, hepatic parenchymal cells are available. So these different cell lines are available commercially, and you can culture them and you can work upon them. So there are two methods. One is the in vivo method, and another one is the in vitro method. So when you use a cell line, it becomes in vitro method. Today, when we talk of animal protection, when we talk of curbing the cruelty against animals, there are some animal rights wings around the globe. They advocate that we should not use animals. What we should use? We should use cells. So these are again very good experimental models. Similarly, if you are interested in studying the metamorphosis, you use the frog. You use frog eggs in embryological experiments. And nowadays we have got a very important experimental animal, that is the zebrafish. The zebrafish can be maintained under laboratory conditions very easily. You can collect the eggs of the zebrafish and you can treat those eggs. You can study the embryology, you can study the toxicology, you can study many toxicological laboratories. And many of my friends, I belong to toxicology, they are working on Danio rerio. Danio rerio is the zebrafish. And we have got the pair of the zebrafish. They very frequently breed under laboratory conditions. We can get them in larval stages. We can get the embryonic stages. The stage that we want, we can get right from the aquarium and use it in our experimental studies. Similarly, when we talk of alternates to rodents or big animals, because everybody cannot afford to keep a monkey in the laboratory. Everybody cannot afford to keep a dog in the laboratory. Everybody cannot afford to keep even rats in the laboratory. So for them, it is easy to have a project or easy to select a model which can be easily maintained under laboratory conditions. And for them, a fish or Danio rerio or zebrafish is a very suitable animal. So I discussed right from E. coli, right from a microbe, right to a nematode. Then we came down to echinoderms like sea urchin eggs, then the amphibians like the salamander, like frog, and then we move further and we go on finding it. For other toxicological or other studies, even the insects, other insects can be used. People are using insects now for biological monitoring studies, for bioindicator studies. There are certain species which are used as bioindicators for a specific mechanism or for a specific chemical or for a specific poison, and they are being used. Even cockroach can be used. So it depends on you what type of approach you have and what type of studies you want to make. So these are some of the options available to a PhD student. It's not only this that a PhD student of biomedicine or biology will be working only on rat. No, it's not like this. There are alternate animal models available today and we can work upon them, and provided we know how to maintain them under laboratory conditions. For maintaining fish, you need the expert who can guide you. You need an expert who can guide you in maintaining the single cell lines, the cancerous cell lines like HeLa cells or other cell types. They can be maintained under laboratory conditions but only under expert supervision. So this is just to introduce you that how you are going to select a model for your research activities. And finally, when you come down that you should select, there is no way out, you need to work upon a rodent, you need to work upon a mammalian species or a rodent species, because we work upon rodents because their physiology is very well known, their biochemistry is very well known. Say for example, if we work on rat, sufficient background information is available on rat. You can go to any laboratory and you can find sufficient background information available on rat. It's not like that the physiology or biochemistry of rat is very much similar to human being, therefore we take these animals. No, it's a myth. Extrapolation of the results that we get from these laboratory animals to human being is again a very difficult task. But they are the suitable models for which we take for our studies. Say for example, if I start talking to you on rat again, if you just go, you must have seen a rat, you must have seen a mouse, you must have seen a mice. What are these? There is a rat, there is a mouse, there is a mice. You must have read in many research papers that fellow took the Charles Foster rat, that fellow took the Sprague-Dawley rat, that fellow took the Worcester rat. What are these? These are different strains of the rat available in commercially available in the market from animal breeders. Say, for example, if you talk of India, you can go to get a rat supply from All India Institute Medical Sciences, New Delhi. You can go to IVRI, Indian Veterinary Research Institute, Nagar, Bareilly. You can go to CDRI, Central Drug Research Institute, Lucknow. Similarly, you can go to other sources. And from these are the authorized institutions to breed, that have been authorized to breed the animals. They breed, they keep them under specific pathogen-free conditions, under standard laboratory conditions. That I mean, standard laboratory conditions mean that they do not suffer from any infection, they do not suffer from any disease, they do not suffer from any metabolic disorder. They have been properly bred and kept and supervised by a qualified veterinarian. Veterinary doctor is required to breed these animals. Veterinary doctor is required to take care of these animals, right? So if you are going to work upon rat, you need a prior preparation for that, and for that you need a certificate from Government of India through CPC SEA, that is the Committee for Prevention of Cruelty and Supervision of Experimental Animals. You will have to register with CPC SEA before doing any experiment on rat, right? You need CPC SEA permission, and CPC SEA permission will be given to the institution, not to you. Suppose if you are working in any university, that university will get the registration, and that university will constitute an animal institutional ethical committee, institutional animal ethical committee, and that ethical committee will be headed by the vice chancellor, the principal, or the director of the institute. And then there will be the other members, like there will be a dean faculty of science, there may be a dean faculty of life sciences, and the head of the department and the supervisor himself, and there will be a representative from CPC SEA, and there will be a representative from any other local institution. That will make a local institutional ethical committee, and that committee will approve, allow you whether you can work upon that animal or not. So that is a preparation before you start an experiment. And when you have got the permission from CPC SEA, you have the permission from Animal Ethical Committee, then you can go and buy the rat, bring the rat into your laboratory, maintain the rat under your laboratory conditions, breed the rat under laboratory conditions, and then plan your experiment. So this is how you are going to start with animal experiments. So if you've taken a rat, what type of rat you need? What type of, whether you need a small mice that weighs just 30 to 40 or 50 grams, you need a bigger rat that weighs 200 to 250 grams, you need a still bigger a rat which weighs up to 300 to 400 grams. It depends on you what type of animal you want to use. If you are interested particularly in a particular strain, you can go for Charles Foster, you can go for Sprague Dawley, you can go for Worcester rat, or you can go for other rats. Similarly, you can go for BLB mice, which is a small mice, just a small one, 30 to 50 grams in weight. Easy to maintain. You can maintain 6 of them in one cage. Rat, of course, cannot be maintained, 6 of them cannot be maintained in one cage. You need separate cages to maintain them under laboratory conditions. So, friends, it's not very simple to say I am working on rat. You will have to find out what type of rat you want to work for. Say for example, say certain laboratories right from their beginning, say for example, my laboratory is working for last 50 years only on albino rat, and that is Rattus albino, that belongs to Wistar strain. We do not use any other strain for our studies, because if today we use Wistar strain, tomorrow we use the Charles Foster, day after tomorrow we use the Sprague Donnelly, there will be no coordination. There will be no coordination amongst the results. And similarly, when you work upon, you have a lifelong project with you, so you will have to work on a particular animal only, and that animal should be very wisely selected. So we shall be talking about these animals, which are the rodent animals, the mammalian animals, one by one, how they can be maintained in the laboratory, how we can take care of them in the laboratory conditions. It's a very interesting subject, and it is every student of biology or biomedicine or biochemistry or biotechnology, he should be very, very well aware of these facts. Otherwise, he will sure to commit a mistake, and that will be yielding wrong results, and that will be a cheating in science. So the first thing that you should know is how to maintain the animal, how to take care of the animal under laboratory conditions, right? So it's just a brief introduction to the laboratory animals. We shall continue our discussion further.